Yes, Gloob, right there. That is a good place. Greetings to you who views this. I am Galhard, proud warrior of the Goliaths of the World Spine Mountains, and a member of the Grand Order. I am here with my adventuring party, continuing on our ventures, and this seemed a good place to recount what we had done up to this point. When we resumed our travels, we went to the Old Owl Well, which actually was an ancient Netherese watchtower, like many that studded the lands. We were told that something unusual was happening there that we should look into, so we did. What we discovered was an excavation being performed by one man. He was a former Red Wizard of Thay. The Thayans don't have much truck with my people, but others have not spoken of them in good light. It is worth noting. This particular one, his family had been cast out. His name was Asbara. And he was interested in looking for the cornerstone of this watchtower to try to learn the identity of the wizard who had created it. He gave a fair accounting of himself, how he wished to destroy the leader of the Thayans, a lich named Zastam something, and we had no great difficulties with that goal. He was an invoker, somebody who makes things blow up, but for all of that, he was passable company. We shared a camp, and he hired us on to help him excavate. He may have been a competent mage, but he was no laborer. With our group adding, muscle to the venture, we were able to move enough dirt and rock, even through the rain, that he was able to achieve his quarry. Upon doing so, he gave us a treasure, a magical ring of protection. I'm not sure who got that. I was not interested in such adornments. But, as it worked out, we camped one more night there. It was too late to continue. And the wizard immediately, after we started our watches, unable to sleep, went into the tower. He began using his newfound knowledge to try to crack into a vault, but not one that was below the tower. It is in another reality, connected somehow to the tower. Apparently, the Netherese did this sort of thing a lot, and the Thayans have learned how to find these vaults. I bear no ill will towards this wizard, and if he can destroy a lich with any power that he gains, I have no great difficulties with it. He treated with us fairly. We were paid and went on our way, seeing nothing more amiss with this. So, we then turned our journey to the town of Conyberry. This was the site in which we were supposed to find Agatha the Banshee and ask her a question on behalf of the Harpers. We met a farmer outside of Conyberry who was quite chatty. He gave us directions, good directions as well, which was beneficial. He told us the state of the town, how they had relatively few worries, meaning there was very little for us to do there. So, we followed his directions into the Neverwinter Wood, following along the path that had been marked. Numerous strips of cloth had been put in place. I believe I'm skipping ahead. We did actually go to the tavern as well. The food was not worth mentioning. Come to think of it, I don't think there was any great thing that happened. It was called the Leaky Tap. 1 gold was enough to buy the loyalty of the entire staff. So we did go into the Neverwinter Wood. There were no monsters to be found, no great dangers that needed warriors. Eventually we found our way to Agatha's lair, which was a grove of trees that had all overgrown so the branches were entangled. We found a tunnel that led into her personal domain. I called out because we were warned that she does not take a lack of manners well. And I know as a warrior that if someone else comes into my territory, they should announce themselves, either by challenge or in fair greeting. So I did this. We waited there but a few moments, when we all felt the chill of the grave upon us. Agatha was coming. She passed through. A banshee is an interesting creature. Originally an elf, she has been twisted by a life of undeath. Were I a wizard or a priest, I might actually care that makes no real sense. But I sensed no great malice in her towards us. The others allowed me to continue talking, so I did. I straightforwardly told her what we wanted. I offered her the offering of the bejeweled comb that was given to us by Rosaria, which she accepted somewhat ingraciously. She wished it to be known that she was not a kept person, and that if we attempted to come back again, our meeting might not be so amicable. Working on these new civilized words. But she, when we told her of the spellbook we were looking for, she said that she knew of it, and that she had traded, sold, given. It was no longer in her possession, but it had been given over to a necromancer, and this particular necromancer was Sarnoff in Erebor. I believe that is a city far to the south. Farther than we will go to claim it, but the Hoppers have far greater reach, and they might be able to get this spellbook. But I was not satisfied. The fact that she knew where it had been was no guarantee that it was still there. I called upon her to honor the agreement and use her divination powers to ensure that the spellbook was still in the necromancer's possession. She, with poor grace, flew up into the reaches of her haunt and verified with her magics that yes, it is still in the possession of the necromancer. So we can now pass on what we know to be true information, unless she lied, and I did not believe that to be the case. I believe that she honors her bargains. Then, for us, we were then bound to go to Thundertree. But we decided that going straight through the Neverwinter Wood would be the fastest way to do so, despite the grim reputation that the forest has. It actually was a fairly pleasant trip. However, it was quickly apparent that we were being followed by a group of elves dressed as rangers. Not being despoilers and being respectful of the natural world, we had little to fear. But when we were prepared to camp, one of them made themselves known to us. And as a happy surprise, one of them was Arthur, the ranger who was known to Darren, the elf that we had dealt with within Phandalin. The one who gave us the horses and such excellent guidance on our way to deal with the goblins to the north of the town. We were pleased to meet this ranger who had organized the defense against the hobgoblins, and by eliminating the scouts and sentries, made our way to deal with the goblins very easy. We had a passably pleasant evening with them. They guarded our sleep, they provided fresh game, they were excellent hosts, and ones that I would not want to get on the ill side of. Not that I fear them, but I believe that they are truly good people who mean well, and are sufficiently deadly warriors themselves, I don't doubt. They basically escorted us to the edge of the Neverwinter Wood, within viewing distance of Thundertree. But we were warned. Thundertree is a town that is under new ownership. It is presided over by a green dragon that has taken over the town. There may be still some who live there, but the dragon resides in a watchtower on the edge of town and is very dangerous. We were not going to let that stop us. However, the fact that the statuette that we are seeking to unlock the mines is in the tower, that is an extra wrinkle that we will have to deal with. We went to the town, and we were told that the druid who Gundren had trusted the statuette to could be found in the town yet. He had fixed up one of the ruined buildings within. I believe Thundertree was a town that was devastated in the cataclysm and never fully rebuilt. That seemed to be the case. When we got to the outskirts of town, there were two buildings that looked like they had been recently shuttered and dressed up. We went to the first. We made our presence known, knocking on the door, and we were greeted firmly by the resident who was not the Druid Ryloth. Instead, this was a young bravo who we asked their nature. He gave us evasive answers. We asked to see his commander, and he did so. We were told of this group, how they were led by a man dressed in black with a dragon-like mask. They even showed us with an illusion that the wizard of the group of rangers was able to conjure up. This man, this commander, matched the description perfectly well, and they appear to be a shifty lot. I do not enjoy dealing with dissemblers and deceivers. I would rather get into a philosophical discussion with our own secret finder than have to deal with this type, except under the way that I enjoy. As it turned out, this one was not able to give us any concrete answers either, to the anger of our cleric. Being himself a noble, he had no stomach for those who would cause trouble, and it turned out that these were members of the Cult of the Dragon, a sordid group of dragon worshippers trying to take over the world in their own way by giving it under to the control of powerful evil dragons. Well, let's just say things got worse. They were prepared to fight us. Not very prepared, as they were poor warriors indeed. The leader of the lot proved to be a bit better of a challenge than his lessers. However, I decided to make sure that we were not outflanked, so I lost control a little bit. Reached over, grabbed one of his minions, grabbed him, picked him up by the legs, and smashed him into another one of his kind, slaying both of them. This effect, plus our group gang tackling the leader and slicing him to ribbons before he could do much damage to us, pretty much ended that fight. We did, however, have one that surrendered. Our group does not like surrender. It makes for sticky engagements, they believe. I see no problem with it. No sense getting extra injury unnecessarily, and this enemy was completely defeated. He seemed just a follower who was offered a better life with the cult and basically living a piteous existence on the streets of Neverwinter, I believe he said. He accepted their offer and joined their cult. We asked him if this was what he intended to do, and if left to his own devices, if he was not killed, he would have returned to the cult. I made a better offer. I thought that if he was skilled enough to be willing to draw a sword against a group like our party, even for a little while, if his heart wasn't in it, he had the steel possibly to serve with the Grand Order. Perhaps not as an adventurer, but there's always jobs that need being done in the chapter houses. Stable hands, or butlers, or porters, or weaponsmiths, perhaps. And if he learned a trade, he could make some use of himself, a good living, and a solid place to stay. I thought it was better than his existence of living in a ruin and risking being eaten by a dragon. Apparently his friend had been devoured by the green dragon when they attempted to parley with him first. So he agreed to stay in the house until we went to get him to bring him back to civilization. Thundertree is the last leg of our journey before we return to Phandalin. That is our intention. From there to meet up with Gundren and then go to open the mines. We did find on the body of their leader a letter. This letter was essentially that Frulum had sent this letter to their leader, stating that Iarno had returned to their group, and he had failed against us. That brought us no small amount of satisfaction, I assure you. And that he was to attempt to wrap up his business with the dragon as quickly as possible. If he failed, he was to return to the fold. It did not look like they had made much for headway, so not so good for them. We clearly ruined that attempt, but again, this was more manipulations from the spider. And whoever this Frulum is. So, leaving the building, we saw a dog in the streets, looking at us curiously and interestedly. We are aware the druids are capable of changing their shapes into those of animals, and this dog's behavior was odd enough that I personally believe that it is the druid, or else an ally of the druids. And he started to lead us to the other fortified house, which we have every reason to believe that Ryloth is using for his home at the moment, or base to work out of, under the nose of the dragon itself. This will hopefully lead to something interesting. The dog even now waits for us, so Gloob, get everything ready. We're ready to progress to our next step of this adventure. Thank you for listening. Should I survive, I will make sure to recount the rest of our adventures on this leg as we attempt to sort out this dragon, get the statuette, and return to Phandalin. Thank you, and farewell.